Recognize anybody there?
Just a few.
Here, put this. You know, we watched the highlights of the 61 and the 62 team, and Chuck Bednarik was quoted as saying he felt the 61 team was actually better than the 60 because of kind of the additions of Irv Cross, Leo Sugar. Sonny Jurgensen, of course, had just a stellar year. Did you get a sense of that at all? And the 61 was...
Well, I think the key differential was, in all sincerity, Norm Van Brocklin at the quarterback. I mean, Sonny Jurgensen was great. He probably had better physical ability, better pass, everything else, but Van Brocklin could just go right through and break it open. He'd go through the first quarter, figure it out, and bingo, would take off, you know. Yeah. And that's the way it was. But Sonny was great. Sonny's a great athlete, but he was in a different class as far as I was concerned.
Talk a little bit about Van Brocklin. Obviously, he was not there the 61 season. Why was that? Did he announce his retirement?
Well, yeah. See, he came to the Eagles with the promise of being the coach when Buck Shaw retired. And then when Buck Shaw did retire after the championship game, they just didn't give it to him for what reason we never knew. But that's when he retired.
So Buck Shaw, did you know going into the 60 season that was Buck Shaw's last year?
No. He was quite a guy, Buck Shaw. Never swore, everything was son of a buck. You know, didn't matter in hell, but everything was son of a buck. You got to get out there, you guys. You got to do this, and stuff like that. But he was a great coach, and from the West Coast, and I really enjoyed him. Of course, the guys did.
Then the next year, Nick Scorch, was he your line coach at the time?
Yeah, he was the line coach with us, and he was an excellent line coach. He knew the game as well as anybody that ever walked on the field, but he didn't have that. He didn't have that charisma, and a lot of times when he was correcting, it became very personal, very digging, and very like that, to the point you would get some guys would get mad and just wouldn't play. And that's essentially what happened to me. That's how I got traded, which was I was glad. I was really glad to get out of there because it was a very bad environment after the championship.
Well, you got traded to the Eagles from the Cardinals in 1958.
Right.
What happened there with you and Pop Ivy?
He was from Oklahoma and I was from Jamestown. I don't know. We had our words from time to time and stuff like that. He just, we didn't get along, that's all. I could put the blame on me as much as anything. But if he'd fire out at me with a few words, I'd fire a few words right back. And, eventually he worked out a good trade with the Eagles. And the Eagles were building, and I was glad to get out of there.
Yeah. So it ultimately came down to he was the coach and you weren't.
No, correct. I was never the coach.
You're quoted in a book, which for those who want to go on eBay sometime and get something really special, it's called 1960 Philadelphia Eagles, the team that they said had nothing but a championship. And it's a book by Robert Gordon on the Philadelphia Eagles, and our good friend Jim McCusker is quoted there. And you're quoted in this section that when I was coming up with the Cardinals, you knew you were going to feel sore after you played the Eagles. Back then, the Lions, Steelers, and Eagles were the most physical teams in football. You might beat them, but they'd beat you up pretty good. You'd be sore for the rest of the week.
Correct. Yeah, that's true. Very physical, And that's the way it was. Some teams you could play them 2-3 times a week. And it just depended on who you were playing against individually and the team as a whole. And of course, I was, I had good speed, and I was always downfield and trying to make blocks and stuff like that. Sometimes I ran into the wrong guys.
Did you find that, for example, the Steelers had Ernie Staudner, comes to mind.
Yeah.
Was he somebody you
Yeah,
had to block?
he was a good friend. He became a friend over time. But we butted heads so many times, it was pathetic. He was a tough guy. He was like, I'm trying to think of the guy for Giants. But anyhow, he was...
Robustelli or Cat Kemp?
Yeah, Robustelli. They were very compact. They could have very easily been linebackers, probably should have been linebackers. But they stuck them out there and they had great speed. So you had to always make sure that you weren't going down and staying in front of them. But everything was that first shot with them, because if you threw them off balance, then you could recover.
Well, the Steelers had Staudner, and they had also a guy named Lipscomb. Did your paths cross with Big Daddy Lipscomb?
Oh, yeah.
Lineup?
Yeah. Well, I'd rather block Big Daddy Lipscomb twice a week than Staudner, you know. Because Staudner's tough. He was the type of guy that he could make you look bad. Big Daddy couldn't do that.
Yeah.
You could blow on Big Daddy and tie him up and stuff like that. Don't let him get going, Big Daddy, because he was fast too. He was on the inside. If he was not on my end, then I would have really probably had a problem.
At the time, I know today they move defensive linemen around, so that they're in different slots. In your era, did you pretty much know who you were going to be blocking throughout the game?
Oh yeah, most of the time. And of course, it depended on what defense they were in too, But we always normally saw a four-man defense if they had real good linemen, real good agile linemen. A lot of times they'd go to a three. They'd go to 3-4, but there wasn't too many teams that were that agile.
You're watching the movie there today, and one of the great things about highlight films is you scored just about every time you had the ball, every time there was a snap. It was a beautiful thing.
I know. I was so amazed. I said, this couldn't have been the Eagles.
Every time, and at this other time, it was fun to watch, and I didn't pick it up till tonight when they were kind of lasering it, that when they got to the goal line, they kind of ran over you. Was that by design, Jim? Were they kind of left-oriented in a sense, or was that...
Well, I'd just say we were the better blockers. There was Jerry Huth, who was my guard, and myself, and then Pete Retzlaff.
Okay.
And they always chose us,
Yeah.
for the most part, But I was glad they did.
You want that in slow motion next time?
Yeah, I want to make sure we're going to score. We drove all the way down the field. Yeah. But there's so many great memories, of the game, and of the guys, and the guys you played against.
Well, that's a good segue. We saw Tommy McDonald score a lot of touchdowns here.
Yeah.
Talk about Tommy McDonald.
Tommy was exactly what you saw. He was a bouncing ball. He had so damn much energy, and his next beer would be his first beer. But he didn't need a beer, He was that type of guy. If anything,
That's a great line.
He sure didn't need a Valentine, that's for sure. But he was exactly what you saw there, and even more so in person, on the field. And he was the same way in practice. He never changed. He was just Tommy. Great guy.
Pete Retzlaff.
Great guy. Pete was the quiet type.
Mm-hmm.
Pete, he was always there with you or stuff like that. But Pete was very strong guy, and we called him the Baron. We made him the Gustav, the German German sergeant, with a hat and a whole bit. Everybody has names, and Pete was a great guy. I was glad he was alongside me.
Timmy Brown.
Timmy was a very nice boy, couldn't shut him up, always talking all the time, but a great athlete, just no matter whether he was catching a pass or running with the ball, and he could go laterally so fast that you couldn't believe it. I mean, he could just, he was here, boom, and he was there. And one guy that didn't really get the notoriety that he should have, I didn't think, was Clarence Peaks, the fullback. Great fullback, great guy. And but in all those years that we were up on top of that, Timmy got it, Tommy got it, Van, Sonny, stuff like that. But Clarence was more or less left out of it as far as getting a lot of paper. You know.
Right. What about Billy Ray Barnes?
Billy Ray, Billy, he could never shut up. He was talking constantly. We were trying to tell Billy to shut up. Don't get him mad, Billy. Just leave him alone. Don't.
Yeah.
Well, that's, he'd be going on. And, he's always arguing with somebody or fighting. But a great halfback and a great friend, a great teammate.
On your line there of the five, just for the audience, you might want to tell who was the five linemen there.
Five guys, and actually the center was Chuck Benerick. He was Mr. Philadelphia, and to everybody and plus himself.
It speaks volumes.
Yeah, so you can understand that there. And then we had myself, I was all the way on the left, and coming in we had Jerry Huth. He was a boy that, I'm trying to think what school he went to. But anyhow, he was a stutterer, you know. He was saying to me, Jesus, watch this guy. As soon as the game got going, he'd get so excited he'd just be stuttering on it. You know, I'd say, I'm done. Try to count down. He'd be going on with it. And the other side was Stan Campbell. And he came over from Detroit. So, see, all of us guys that came there within a matter of 2 years. The only other guys there were guys that we drafted out of college. But most all the guys came in. Buckshaw put the team together. There was not two ways about it. But Stan Campbell, he came from Detroit. Great back. Little guy. Had a huge voice. And you'd look around to see who the hell was talking. And here's this guy. Here's this guy. And I think the guy is going to be 7 foot taller because he had a deep voice. But then my other tackle, who was my buddy, was J.D. Smith. And he was a tall Texan. Yeah. You know, Jim, I don't think I'd ever like a Yankee, but I sure like you. That was his statement to me. You know, I sure like you. So that was it along the line.
You're again quoted in this book, the 1960 Philadelphia Eagles, and you talk a little bit about the fact that your team certainly in the 61, 62 passed a lot, and that the actual run block, you didn't get as much credit for that, and you allowed us how that you never really practiced that.
No.
Why was that?
Well, that's the funny part. We'd get out on the field and we'd get into practice. We never ran a play. We had to know them in case we did, but everything was passing, you know, which it was okay. But as far as I was concerned, I didn't care because we had the tools. Mm-hmm. We definitely had the guys. And Sonny learned. I'm sure if you could talk to Sonny a day, he would say he couldn't have been in a better place than being behind Van Brocklin and Van Brocklin teaching, you know. And Van was the guy that put us in the championship. There's no two ways about that. He brought us back, whatever, if we were behind in a given situation or stuff like that. And if you screwed up, it was you were in trouble.
He never mentioned that to you, did he? That perhaps you may have missed a block or had a holding or something?
Well, I missed the blocks. You could see them there. Or else I slid on my butt or something like that. But never anything that got to him. If it got to him, oh, God. I'd have just been walking off the field and I'd say, okay, guys, I'll see you later. Yeah.
Was he like that? I mean, really, but just did he get in everybody's face?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, if you screwed up or if your man got in and hit him and knocked him around. I was trying to think who the hell really got him. And it was Huth. It was my guard alongside of me. And somehow, I tell you what, it was an automatic, and Jerry didn't catch the automatic, and Jerry pulled out. This guy comes straight through and just killed Van Brockland. And Van Brockland was going to back to pass. He called an automatic pass, and Van Brockland goes back to pass. He turns around, and this guy just unloads on him. And we got back in the huddle, and he's hollering, "Who's you S.O.B. dumb, blah, blah, blah," just going on and on and on. And next week he wasn't starting. They put another guy in, and he got traded to Minneapolis, Minnesota. Yeah, he was gone.
You guys, it wasn't shown on the film because it was a game you lost. I think it was 62 when Van Brockland was coaching for the Vikings and came back and played you guys.
Oh, yeah.
Was there a little more juice going into that game? You
Not
remember
really.
anything about that?
No, not really. We, we respect the fan. We'd holler at him and stuff like that, annoy him. Got over near the sidelines, we'd say, "Hey, asshole," stuff like that. Stuff like that. But no, we still had great feelings for the guy, and he did for us, for that matter.
There was something in the film called the Playoff Bowl. And I had to actually look it up to figure out what the hell the Playoff Bowl was. Do you remember its significance?
It was the second place teams, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something that,
I don't remember too much about it, but I remember it was second place team.
and then if you can look it up, I did. And criticism, Vince Lombardi detested the Playoff Bowl, coaching in the games following the 63 and 64 seasons after winning titles in 61 and 62. To his players, Lombardi called the Playoff Bowl, the shit bowl, a loser bowl for losers. This lack of motivation may explain the ending of it. And after one loss, Lombardi said, "A hinky-dink football game held in a hinky-dink town, played in by hinky-dink players. That's all second places, hinky-dink." There's probably another term for hinky-dink he used.
Yeah.
But anyways, that was just sort of an interesting play. There's some other players that you played against that I saw out there. One of the guys, you're a big guy, Jim, and I saw Doug Adkins there, and he was huge.
Yeah, big guy.
What was he like?
Tall, very tall too. So you had to be aggressive with him. You couldn't fall back on him. Mm-hmm. You're better off to take him on right at the line. You know what I mean? If he ends up throwing you, well, at least he's got to save 5 yards to get to that quarterback. But if you set back and then let him get 2-3 steps on you, it's just the way you want to block him. Some guys did, and they weren't playing anymore. But no, he was tough. Doug Adkins was very tough. It'd be like Big Daddy out on the end.
Yeah. You had guys, and again, this is from my old days, just collecting football cards, I guess, but the Jim Cavages, the Robustellis, the Bob Tunuffs, those all you guys that were, I think, shown on the film somewhat.
Yeah.
Were a couple of guys you'd say, "Oh man, I'm preparing, and I hope he gets hurt or gets sick. I don't want to see him again." Was there a guy in the league at the time that you really didn't look forward to? No, not really. I don't. I wasn't really. They were all tough as far as I was concerned. I really didn't want a little guy over there. Like I didn't want a Robustelli over there. Mm-hmm. And what I had to constantly keep doing with Robustelli was changing up my stance, and by that I mean I'd blow out and hit him and knock him back, and it'd be a pass play, but I'd still do it anyhow, and then I'd come on back, or else I'd set back the next time or do. I had to keep changing what I was doing as far as pass plays, and most all of our plays are pass plays. We're a passing offense, About the only time we ran a play was a draw play. Yeah. You went back in the last fall to the 50th reunion of the 1960 championship game. What was that like? Getting together with the guys?
Oh yeah, no, it was terrific. It was so much fun. We really enjoyed it, and I really give this owner credit now. This Laurie. Mm-hmm. got to meet the guy and all that stuff, and he'd be like anybody walking down the street. I mean, he was just that matter of fact, hi, how are you, you know, and then he'd, you know, as soon as he heard your name, then he'd talk, and he'd say, I've watched you many times, and we'd go on and talk about whatever. But he brought everybody in, sent everybody in to, that cost him a ton of money, you know. He had us all wear these jackets and all this stuff, and put on quite a show for us. It was really nice.
Question Mary wanted me to ask is, you were...
Uh-oh.
Yep. I must, first of all, thank you, Jim, and especially Mary, because they were kind enough to not only go there, but to get a program autograph for me, and I really, genuinely, really appreciate it. Thank you. But the only page, as I was rummaging through it, and there's only one page which is sort of folded over, Jim, and she wondered if you did it, and it was dealing with the whole section on cheerleaders. So
No. Maybe Mary did that. I don't know.
I'm not getting an answer, Mary. I'm sorry. It's a little bit different than what we saw when you had cheerleaders, didn't you?
Oh, yeah. We always had cheerleaders.
Let's
But you
go.
couldn't watch them, you know, because it'd be too distracting.
Yeah. I'll try to find another question. When the day came, and 1962, they came and said, Jim, we're going to trade you. Is that how it came, or did you say, I wanted to be traded? How did that happen?
No, well, I'll tell you exactly what happened. Nick Scorch, the way he was coaching the team and his mannerisms were so, he was a great offensive line coach. He had it up here, was okay on the line. But once you took over the whole operation and the pressure of that and the pressure of constantly being with the media, whether it was that or whatever, it's constant pressure. And there's no doubt that he changed, you know. And so he always would talk to me when he was a line coach. And he called me in and he says, you want to know, we'd lost, I don't know, 2-3 games or whatever it was. He said, Jim, I called you, I want to talk to you. What do you think's wrong? You know, what's going on? And I just said to him, I said, it's you, Coach. And, his exact words I said to him. I said, it's you, Coach. What the hell do you mean? I said, you cannot treat these guys like this. Aren't you aware of what you're doing? I said, you can't do it to them. I said, these guys aren't going to take this bullshit. I said, I said, instead of correcting him the correct way, I said, you're swearing at him, you're hollering at him, you're belittling him to the other guys. I said, it just don't go. And I said, it's not the fact that you did it to one person, you've done it to about 20 people. Yeah. And I said, the guys just aren't playing for you. And I walked out of there and I said to myself, well, I wonder where I'm going. It's really exactly what I thought. So I went to Cleveland. That was the greatest part is I went to Cleveland, you know. The only thing is that he followed me. He got fired, that year. Yeah. And he came to Cleveland. He was going to be a line coach. Yeah. He was going to be the line coach. And I said, hey, no way, boy. So I went and talked to Blanton. And I said, Blanton, you have your new line coach. And he says, yeah. He says, you should know him well. I said, I sure do. I said, because of him, I'm not coming back here. He said, no, what do you mean? And Blanton was a hell of a guy, really a real southern gentleman. And I said, I just can't come back, Blanton. I said, too much water over the dam. And I said, the only thing I asked, I said, would you trade me to a team in the East? I said, because this is going to be my last one. I said, I don't want to move and move and move. I said, it's it. I said, I'll play my 7 years and retire. And he did. He set me up with the Jets. And I went over to the Jets and I enjoyed the last year. They didn't have anything going on. Mm-hmm. And but I enjoyed it. And I retired. That was it.
63, Jimmy Brown, what was he like?
Great guy. He very quiet, Jimmy does. sometimes, in most cases, you're glad he doesn't, he's very, very quiet, because sometimes he says the wrong things to guys and gets them very mad. He's exactly what you would expect. He's Jim Brown, me, everything's me, you know what I mean? But he had such ungodly talent. I mean, he was so great, it was pathetic. I used to sit and watch the films, every week, and the things he did were unbelievable. His spins and everything like that. He'd have 2, 3 guys hit him, and he'd just keep spinning, and he'd take off, give him a couple yards. And he had the speed of any of those guys. We had Bobby Mitchell. He could run right even with Bobby Mitchell, and he's 245, 250.
For those who didn't like the Browns and they would watch Jimmy Brown, he'd run 10 yards and all of a sudden it looked like he just couldn't possibly get up.
Well, that was him. See, that's his character.
It may have just been television back in that time period, but clearly the Browns-Giants game seemingly got more exposure. Were they a little more intense than other rivalries? Did you get a sense of that?
I don't know. I think the Browns really, Browns more than anybody had the great teams. You can say what you want. A lot of people didn't like Paul Brown, but I thought he was by far one of the best coaches the NFL ever saw. Mm-hmm. And he didn't come across as, he didn't have that great personality or anything like that. But the Giants will always be a part of it, just be in New York City, period. But, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed going to Cleveland and playing.
We talked a little bit earlier, Randy mentioned the fact Jamestown High School, and you played junior high school, Harold Rubens, Walt Colburn. Did you play both sides, both offense and defense?
Oh, yeah.
So that was the...
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, everybody played like that for the most part.
Right.
Either started or you didn't start. When there was, offensively and maybe once in a while a guy go in who was better in a defensive position or something like that, or either an offensive position. But for the most part, you played the whole game. You played the whole position. Yes.
During those years, Jim, Jamestown High School, I know we've never even talked about this, but what kind of teams you have?
We had good teams. We had, I can't remember the records, but we did okay. We had good teams. There was two ways about that. We had Buddy Bender. He was a good halfback. We had Dickie Polinos at fullback, and we had good teams. We had good ball players.
Why did you select Pittsburgh?
I definitely was going to a city school, a university. I didn't want it to be just a campus. You know what I mean? And I definitely wanted a good school, and I checked them all out and everything like that. And I narrowed it down basically to Pitt and Syracuse. And I liked both schools. I could have, went to Notre Dame. I could have went to all these places, but a place like Notre Dame was like a prison. You know what I mean? You were there, and you don't do nothing. You don't go no place. You don't. I said, the hell, if I want to do this, I'll join the service, or else go to Army or Navy or like that. But no. And I finally made my decision at Pitt, and it turned out to be the greatest coaches and everything.
Was Michael Olson your coach, head coach?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And
great coach. I was lucky in all the years I look back on him, right from Harold Rubens, who's a great coach, great guy, and then Walt Colburn, completely different coaches, you know what I mean? But gave you the incentive to do your best, and everything like that, and it paid off, naturally.
as you reflect, I'm going to open this up for questions from the audience here for a second. As you look back on this amazing All-American career, or NFL championship career, NFL leagues. Is there anything that, I hate to say, what you might do differently, or if you had to sort of plan out that? I mean, it looks like it's...
Yeah, I would like to have been born 30 years later. Collect the money that they're collecting now. Yeah.
I mentioned earlier, Jim, you are the only person from Jamestown High School to go to the NFL, and
Yeah.
one of only two folks to come from this area to get a professional sports championship.
Yeah.
Do you reflect on that at all?
No, I don't reflect on it a bit, really. I'm just glad that I had the coaching. I'm glad I had the good teachers in school and everything else, whether it was at my high school, which naturally is your basis, your foundation. And I look back at it all, and I was just lucky, and I went along, and I went with it. And Pitt was a great school to go to, and that just built my foundation. And Jamestown's a great city to come from, believe me. Compared to a lot of cities I've been in, you ought to go into some of those Pennsylvania towns if you want to see some places to grow up.
Well, not only is Jamestown a great place to come from, but it's also, for your purposes, a great place to come back to. Why did you choose to come back here?
I wanted to. I'd lived in Philadelphia, and it was great. The city was good, everything about that. I hated the humidity. It gets so humid down there, it's terrible. You don't even want to go outside of a building, that's how, it's probably hard for you. I don't know if you've been down the East Coast in the summertime. And I said, this is okay when I'm here, but when I'm through with this, I'm out of here. And that's essentially what it was. And during the time that I played ball, I worked for a bakery, because you try to get anything that, a company that'll go along with you, plus what, you work it right through the season in the Philadelphia area. So I worked for this huge bakery, and I called on everything from school systems and their contracts and all the big restaurants and everything like that up and down Jersey and down to Delaware. And so I got to know a lot about the business. And I saw different parts of operations that I liked. And when I finally decided to retire, I said, I think I'm going to go back and build this in Jamestown and see how it goes over. And if it doesn't go over, I'll go back into sales, And so that's what I did. And I came back, and, I put it on Main Street, and everybody says, you don't want a bar on Main Street. I says, I'm going to be right between those 3 banks. That's where people go.
Yep.
Day in and day out, So it's been very good to me, and I've had very good people, employees, and everything else, and I've really enjoyed it.
Well, we've enjoyed your presence. It's going to be hard for me to see, but just maybe yell out questions if you got one. Anybody? Particular? Thank you. Now you can see. Randy, you got the first question.
I asked Jim this the other day, and I hoped you could think about it some more. Who were the big rivalries that you had in high school, Jim? Who were the big games that you
was
looked
Warren.
forward to in high school?
It was Warren. Yeah, everything drove you to Warren, which is normally the last game of the season. But if you didn't beat Warren, you might as well, flush it down the drain.
Why do you think that was the rivalry?
I don't know. I just know that, as we grew up, that was a key game. And the town would be a mess afterwards. Chris, there would be toilet paper everywhere, and you name it. But it wasn't anything as far as destruction. It was just the two towns themselves. And no, it was a great rivalry, I thought. Yeah.
There's a yes, Jeff.
Jim, I think I seen an old one with John Madden. Was he on your team at the time, or was he on later? You were number 77.
I know John pretty well. He's a great guy.
Yeah.
He's very, very interesting and very very talkative. You got to talk fast to get ahead of him. And he'll express his view on everything. But a great person, you know. I can't remember. I don't remember, very honestly.
Jim, did you ever have the chance to coach? Did anyone ever ask you to be a coach?
Oh yeah, I had many chances to go into coaching. In fact, Scorch is the one. Even though I didn't get along with Scorch, he wanted me to go into coaching. He said, you know as much about the game as anybody. He says, I want you to go into it. He said, you got the head for it and everything else. And I said, no, it's just not there. I don't. I just don't want to coach.
Rod?
Jim, were steroids in use back in the days where you were in the NFL?
No. And if they were, they had to be so limited that nobody really knew anything about. I don't think there was anything like that. There was bennies. There was a lot of, a lot of pills, a lot of heat. You might as well call it. But you'd be foolish to even take those. I mean, my God, you're so. I don't know. I mean, I was so keyed up for the game anyhow. I don't. It was either I'm playing somebody like Robustelli or somebody like that. You know, I want a clear head. I don't. I wouldn't even think of doing something like that. Yeah. But today you don't know. You don't. I don't have no idea.
There's a question up there.
I was just going to say, I spoke with Jim before about this, but what we talk about, what are some of the worst or maybe the hardest places you played throughout maybe college and when you were in the pros?
No, what?
Difficult locations, hard places to play at, you know.
Hard venues, you know.
You know, you're going to Chicago or Detroit or...
Oh, yeah. I would say probably the worst place was up in New York, really. And of course, for the most part, usually had the most people, and they're so close to. Actually, our stadium in Philadelphia was a terrible stadium to play in. It's a beautiful stadium because it's the University of Pennsylvania, but it's 2 stories, and the people, they're right on top of you. In other words, the bleachers, the way they're set up, they come right there, and they don't phase back like they do in other new stadiums today. And they're right on top of you, and you can't hear a damn thing once the game gets going. But no, I would say it'd have to probably be New York, I guess. Yeah.
So, speaking of New York, good segue, one of the benefits of going to places like flea markets, I was able to get this program, Jim. Mm-hmm. And it's the New York Giants versus the Eagles, November 20th, 1960. November 20th, 1960. And of course, there's Jim McCusker with Retzlaff, Huth, Campbell, Smith, Walston, etc. But I also looked up to see what happened that day, and that was the game where Bednarik took out Frank Gifford.
Oh, really? Yeah.
And that shot is shown over and over again in the 60 highlights film. Was that a kind of an emotional hit? Do you remember much about that particular?
No, but you got to understand how Charlie was one of these type of guys that when he hit you through the head and with the shoulder. Whereas a lot of guys just grab, when they tackle. But Charlie always used his shoulder. When you're using that shoulder and you hit somebody with the head in the head, it's lights out. You know what I mean? There's no 2 ways about it. And then if you get a back that size, and Charlie's a good-sized guy, and that's what happens. But he's one of few people that I knew in football that tackled that way. And it's good and it's bad. I mean, it's good in the fact that he got the guy, but it's bad in the fact that he can really hurt somebody. Mm-hmm. You know. The only time I ever hurt anybody was I hurt myself, for the most part. I'd get madder than hell, and somebody scored the damn touchdown, and I'd line up, and I'm on the wedge, and they'd say, which way are you going? I said, wherever the hell the ball is, that's where we're going. So then I'd take off, and I wouldn't block the guy. I'd run right through him,
Was that typical of, because there really wasn't special teams per se. There was, if you were on the offense, you were on the kickoff routine.
No.
No?
No. There's specific guys on on the kickoff and on the receiving team.
Right.
And on the punting team, both, receiving and kicking the punt. So, in the pros, it's entirely different. And in college, most of the time it's the guys that are in there.
Other questions? Yes.
Salary wise for the playoff game, the big one, that you got, I know it wasn't as much as they make now, but for some of those that didn't know what you got, did you get a ring as well as a salary?
Yeah, that was the greatest part, the ring. We got about $5,300 we got. Yeah, we were the winners. I can't remember what the losers got. And at the time, I went in, I signed, I was the 13th pick in the country, and I signed for $8,500. And that was tops, And I got a $5,000 bonus, and that was so I wouldn't go to Canada. And at the time, Canada was paying the money, and they were stealing a lot of the graduates out of the U.S. athletes, I should say.
Do you ever, the AFL was starting 1959, 1960, they've played. Did anybody ever approach you, Jim McCusker, about jumping to the AFL?
No. There's no way we would anyhow.
Yeah.
Unless there was big money involved. There was never big money. Maybe for a quarterback or somebody like that, Possibly, I don't know, a halfback maybe. Or Tommy McDonald or Billy Ray. But I don't think they would ever leave and go to the AFL.
Mary, what's a question I haven't asked? That's great. Let's see if he practiced since he did the radio program. Okay, Jim, how long have you been married?
I still don't know. And she wouldn't tell me either. She said, if you don't know, I'm not telling you. It
was fabulous. It was fabulous. Yes, right there.
Which side of the ball did you prefer more, offense or defense?
When you're during the time you were going both ways. By the way, did you go both ways in college?
Yeah.
Offense, defense, which did
Yeah.
you prefer? Which did you prefer, offense or defense?
Not really, didn't matter. I don't know. I liked them both just so I won the damn game. That's all I wanted, was to win. But no, I liked them both. I liked you like to go from one to the other because if some guy takes a swipe at you with an elbow or whatever it is, and you get between playing both ways, you get an opportunity to get to him. You know what I mean? And if the play goes the other way, I'll look and see where he is, and then go after him.
How did Bednarik do it in the pros? He was the last guy that I'm aware of that went both ways.
Yeah. Charlie was a great player, a tremendous player. He went both ways because our normal middle linebacker got hurt.
Yeah.
And we didn't really have anybody that we wanted to put into that position because it's a very physical position, the middle linebacker. You're almost like a guard or tackle in there, offensively. And he did it well. As far as playing center, and you don't have to be in any great shape at all. I mean, you're either dropping back.
Nice.
Either dropping back.
Bill, help me out.
Either dropping back or you're picking up this guy or that guy. I mean, it really is not a hard position. But the hardest part about the position is centering and getting that ball up. But the thing about Charlie was he's Mr. Philadelphia. The thing with Charlie was he was never a team man. It was strictly Charlie, And the guys didn't, we never really warmed up to him. We thought the world of him for his ability and what he contributed to the team. But he was never a team guy. It was all me. I'm Mr. Philadelphia. Do you know who I am?
Was he like that at the 50th anniversary reunion?
Yeah, he never changed.
Yeah.
I mean, those people never changed.
Jim,
All you
as,
do is say hello, hi Charlie, stay over there, that's okay. One of those type deals. That's how you shake hands.
Jim, you are certainly, and you will, you're so humble about all of this, but for our purposes and for all our purposes, that's why there's so many people here tonight. Really an icon. You really are for what you've accomplished, athletic as well as in the community, et cetera. If you had to have a kind of the final word in tonight's event about how you feel about Jamestown, maybe your patrons, or maybe just your career, what would you say, Jim?
Well, I am very glad that I came back to Jamestown. It was a very good decision. I work in a business that you put in hours, you know, to make it successful originally and all that type of stuff. But I love Jamestown, and I love the area, and I doubt if I'd ever leave. And I like the people. The people are great. I'm grateful for growing up here, the parents that I had, which, you know, they naturally steered me in the right, gave me all my attributes, you might as well say, but they kept me in line. And from there, you take your teachers, you take your coaches, and it just goes up the line. I'm sure it's the same with you. And I'm just so grateful for it. That's what put me there. And I really enjoy the town. I know there are a lot of people bitch about it and like that, but hey, there's a lot of towns. I get you show you so many there that are they don't equal us. I mean, they don't have a 22-mile lake that they can go look at or whatever it is. But I love Jamestown. As far as the state itself, there's a problem. They don't even know where we are. All they know is there's a lake down there in the corner. Make sure you get their taxes. Yeah. Bad.
Well, when people come into the town, they ask me of places to go see. You know, you can say Roger Torrey Peterson, the Robert H. Jackson Center, of course, the Lucy Desi Center, but of course the pub where you might see Jim McCusker, one of our real landmarks. So for that, thank you tonight, Jim. This has been terrific. Ladies and gentlemen, Jim McCusker.
I enjoyed it. Enjoyed it.
Doing this tonight,
I do.
and we'd also like to thank
You're my
Mary
number one
McCusker
man.
for her involvement in this program. And Joe DeMeo has a little gift for Mary from the Sports Hall of Fame. We have food downstairs, soda, coffee, water, some brownies, cookies. Please come down and join us, no charge.
There's an elevator too that goes all the way down if you need it. It's right on the floor up here that goes down to all the floors. Mary, we know.
Okay, Ron. Started 7th grade together. Oh, really? We were in both those classes. How you doing? I thought it was Valentine's Night.
Adkins, how are you? Valentine. You just saw that, didn't you?
Hi, Ed. How are you?
Okay, how are you?
Thank you. Hi, Neil. Mary was worried you weren't going to have a good turnout.
That was a good turnout.